We highlight the Olympians who broke records and elevated Africa's status at the Paris Olympics 2024. And slap fighting has been gaining traction in South Africa, often drawing crowds. The sport is seen as a positive influence in local communities. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION.
Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Isha Hanspal, your host today. It's been a week of fast-paced development in West Asia. The threat of Iran's attack on Israel has triggered high-stakes diplomacy in the region. Qatar hosted international mediators to attain a ceasefire in Gaza and avert a full-blown war between Iran and Israel. And on the Lebanon-Israel border, Hezbollah and Israeli forces have intensified cross-border strike. Tensions are soaring high, and we are tracking all these developments. But first, a look at the top headlines.
Iraq announced that the planned withdrawal of a US-led coalition would be delayed, citing latest tensions in the region. Hezbollah releases a video claiming to show its underground missiles and tunnels amid fears of all-out war between the Lebanese group and the Israeli forces. A masked man wearing a helmet and bulletproof vest on Monday stabbed at least 5 people outside a mosque in northwest Turkey. The 18-year-old suspect, armed with a long knife, broadcasted the attack on X before the police apprehended him.
World powers are urging Iran to exercise restraint towards Israel. Iran has rebuffed these calls. Tehran claims it is well within its rights to avenge the killing of Ismail Haniyeh on its soil and respond to its aggressor. So today in our top story, we ask this: will high-wire diplomacy prevent the threat of a wider war in West Asia?
The threat of Iran's revenge attack on Israel is growing by the hour. This as world powers are involved in high-stakes diplomacy in Doha, halting or limiting Iran's strike to avenge the death of Hamas's boss, Ismail Haniyeh, could bolster months-long effort to secure a ceasefire deal. Earlier this week, Iran rejected Western calls to stand down against Israel. Iran said request by France, Germany, and Britain is a violation of the principles of international law. In a call, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer warned Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, that there is a serious risk of miscalculation. Pezeshkian rebuffed the message. Iran's president said that Iran is well within its right to respond. He said a punitive response to an aggressor is a right of nations and a solution for stopping crimes and aggression. One of the key negotiators, Washington, believes that Iran might limit its response if the Gaza ceasefire deal is achieved.
Getting north, we'll see what Iran does, and we'll see what happens if we're done its act. But I'm not giving up.
Act together, and do you have the understanding that Iran could cease or stop doing an action if a ceasefire deal is possible?
That's my expectation, but we'll see. Thank you.
Reports suggest the Qatari Prime Minister has also urged Iran to carefully weigh its response to Israel. Qatar reportedly cited the progress on ceasefire talks to halt Iran from attacking Israel. Israel, on the other hand, is on high alert. It says its forces are vigilant and is aware of the imminent threat from the axis of resistance.
We take the statements and remarks by our enemies seriously, and therefore we are at peak preparedness for attack and defense, and we will act according to the instructions of the political level.
Israel's ally, US, says it is committed to the security of the West Asian nation. Washington approved a sale of $20 billion weapon package to Israel. These include F-15 fighter jets, army vehicles, and explosive cartridges. Apart from the weapons package, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has ordered the deployment of a guided missile submarine to West Asia. Iran also displayed its Navy might. Tehran says its Navy has new cruise missiles equipped with highly explosive warheads that are undetectable.
Today, the accuracy of weapons in the Navy, the speed of operation of systems and vessels, intelligence, mobility and dexterity are certainly considered among our naval power.
Diplomatic failure to halt Iranian response could lead to a complex drone and missile attack in tandem with Lebanon's Hezbollah, who are now separately aggrieved over the killing of one of its top commanders.
In the last few weeks, we've reported about escalating tensions on the Israel-Lebanon border. And now, amid the threat of an Iranian attack on Israel, US and French officials arrived in Lebanon and urged Beirut to defuse its cross-border fire. Watch this.
Cross-border firing between Lebanon's Hezbollah and the Israeli forces has intensified. Hezbollah has vowed revenge against the killing of its top commander, Fuad Shukr, last month. In the latest series of attacks, IDF claims it hit Marjayon city, killing 2 Hezbollah fighters. This is the first time Israel has struck the southern Lebanese city since October 8 last year. In the 10 months of cross-border firing between the two forces, Hezbollah has lost hundreds of fighters and senior commanders, leading to destruction and displacement of people on both sides of the border. To avert a recap of 2006 war between Hezbollah and the IDF, Foreign Minister of France and the US Special Envoy visited Lebanon this week. The French minister met the Lebanese officials and emphasized de-escalating tensions on its border.
A very simple message from me. First of all, France's support for Lebanon at this time when we are all concerned about the regional situation. A very simple message also about de-escalation. A message addressed here to the Lebanese authorities, and it will also be addressed to other countries in the region.
US envoy Amos Hochstein also went to Beirut. He was accompanied by the US ambassador to Lebanon, Lisa Johnson. The visiting US envoy warned that the clock is ticking for a ceasefire in Gaza.
We continue to believe that a diplomatic resolution is achievable because we continue to believe that no one truly wants a full-scale war between Lebanon and Israel, especially not the Lebanese people and the Israeli people. We know it's urgent because the hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel have only escalated since I was here last.
Amid diplomatic maneuvering for de-escalation, Lebanon's caretaker government is trying to prepare for the worst. Lebanon's health minister says an inventory up to 4 months' worth of critical supplies has been built.
There's a stock of fuel in Lebanon, and of course, in the event of war, there are priorities. There's no doubt that the health sector is one of the priorities when it comes to distribution, if there's an increase in the number of attacks. At the same time, the Ministry of Health have taken important steps in the matter of alternative energy for many of our government hospitals. We now have more than 15 government hospitals equipped with alternative energy.
On the other side of the Lebanese border, Israeli authorities have stocked blood supplies in a fortified underground center. Factories have moved out hazardous materials and municipal authorities are checking bomb shelters. Hezbollah says it is seeking to tie up Israel's military resources, especially in the Golan Heights region. The Lebanese group is on edge after its top commander was killed in Beirut. Hezbollah says it has carried out over 2,000 military operations against Israel since October last year. This week, the group said it launched a barrage of Katyusha rockets on northern Israel. The Lebanese group says it will stop its operations if there is a ceasefire in Gaza.
All eyes are and hope is pinned on attaining a ceasefire in Gaza. The threat of an Iranian attack remains imminent. So international mediators in Qatar pushed for a new bid for truce. With recent developments in the region, while the big concern is to avoid further conflict, the unease about Palestinians and hostages stuck in the war zone for over 10 months now looms. Will there be respite for them? Take a look.
In an effort to avoid a wider war, Qatar hosted all international mediators for Gaza ceasefire talks. Delegates from Israel and Egypt were in attendance. Israel sent Mossad chief David Barnea to lead its delegation. Central Intelligence Agency Director William Burns was also part of the crucial meet. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby called Thursday's meeting a promising start. He added that negotiators are focused on the implementation of agreement. Hamas officials did not join the talks. It accused Israel of adding new demands to a previous proposal that had US and international support and to which Hamas had agreed in principle. A top Hamas official said the group is losing its faith in the United States' ability to mediate a ceasefire in Gaza. The mediators have spent months trying to hammer out a three-phase plan in which Hamas would release hostages captured in the October 7th attacks. The original proposal involved 3 phases. The first would last for 6 weeks and include a full and complete ceasefire. This would lead to a withdrawal of Israeli forces from all densely populated areas of Gaza and the release of a number of hostages. The two sides would use that 6-week period to negotiate an agreement for the second phase, which Joe Biden said would include the release of all remaining living hostages, including male soldiers, and Israel's full withdrawal from Gaza. The temporary ceasefire would become permanent. The third phase would kick off a major reconstruction of Gaza, which faces decades of rebuilding from the devastation caused by the war. As international mediators are trying their best to implement the agreement, cracks are widening in Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. As per local media reports, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant are not seeing eye to eye when it comes to the future of Gaza. Earlier in the week, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant reportedly slammed Netanyahu's remark about a total victory in Gaza as nonsense. Netanyahu struck back, saying Gallant should have criticized Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar instead. Gallant attempted to ease tensions by responding that his priority was to protect the citizens of Israel. On the battlefront, conditions continue to worsen in the Gaza Strip. Israeli strike on Al-Tabin school killed over 100. Local media reports say Israel has targeted more than 500 schools since last year. Palestinian Health Ministry says Gaza's death toll has surpassed 40,000. Meanwhile, the IDF says it has killed 17,000 Hamas operatives in Gaza since last year in its bid to eliminate the group.
One of the holiest sites in West Asia is making headlines again. The Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem's Old City has been a sensitive spot for decades now. However, far-right Ben Gvir's visit to the compound has drawn anger from world leaders and members of the Jewish community alike. Here's more.
Al-Aqsa Mosque, the holy site located in Jerusalem's Old City, has become a flashpoint amid the already volatile region of West Asia. This week, Israel's national security minister visited the contested compound with dozens of Israelis. Itamar Ben Gvir, who visited the compound, known as Temple Mount to Jews, challenged rules that cover one of the most sensitive sites in the region. Ben Gvir disputed that Jews should be allowed to pray at the holy site. The Israeli minister visited the complex to mark the Jewish Day of Mourning for the destruction of the ancient temples.
We are on Tisha B'Av, the Temple Mount, coming here to mark the destruction of the temple. But we need to say honestly, there's been great progress here with governance and sovereignty. Images of Jews playing here. As I've said, our policy is to allow prayer. I will say something further. We must win this war. We must win and not go to conferences in Doha or Cairo. Rather, defeat them. Bring them to their knees. That's the message. We can defeat Hamas. Bring them to their knees.
After Ben Gvir's visit to the compound, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office quickly asserted that there has been no change to the rule prohibiting Jews from praying at the site. For decades, a delicate status quo has governed worship and visits to the site. Muslims are permitted to pray in its courtyards and prayer halls, while non-Muslims are allowed to visit under the supervision of the Waqf. There is a joint Jordanian-Palestinian Islamic trust that manages the mosque's affairs. The spokesperson for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas denounced Ben Gvir's visit as a provocation and called on the United States to intervene if it wants to prevent the region from exploding in an uncontrollable manner. Shortly after the development, Washington said it is committed to maintaining the status quo at the holy site.
We certainly are paying close attention to actions and activities that we find to be a detraction from Israel's security, a contributor to greater insecurity and instability in the region, and that would certainly be the actions that we saw today that Mr. Ben Gvir participated in. Even the Prime Minister's office itself made clear that the events of this morning are a deviation from what is Israeli policy and a deviation from the status quo. And let me just say clearly that the United States stands firmly for preservation of the historic status quo with respects to the holy sites of Jerusalem, and any unilateral action, which this would be, that any unilateral action like this that jeopardizes such a status quo is unacceptable.
UK and France were also quick to condemn Ben Gvir's visit to the compound, saying that it violates the status quo agreement. Israel's influential rabbis also announced that the far-right minister's actions do not represent that of the Jews.
Most of the leading halakhic authorities of our generation, the greats of Israel, forbid this action, and no one should go up to the Temple Mount.
The row with Ben-Gvir was the latest in a long series that have laid the divisions in Netanyahu's right-wing coalition since its formation at the end of 2022. It also comes at a time when Hamas launched its Al-Aqsa flood operation on October 7 last year. Hamas claims Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was a necessary step and a natural reaction against Israel's plans to eliminate the Palestinian cause, seize lands, Judaize the Palestinian lands, and establish complete control over Al-Aqsa Mosque and holy sites. Israel sees Hamas as a threat to Judaism and aims to eliminate the group with its ongoing operations in the Gaza Strip.
In the land ravaged by war, one of the pressing issues is the plight of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli captivity. One such detainee has come forward and shared his horrific ordeal in Israeli prison. Here's one of many such dreadful, ghastly tales.
In the last 2 months, several reports of abuse in Israeli detention centers have emerged. These are mostly first-hand accounts of detainees held in Israel's prisons in Ofer and Negev. One such detainee has come forward to narrate his harrowing ordeal. He was one of the captives in the leaked photo of the Sde Taiman facility. The viral photo showed Ibrahim Salem standing behind a barbed wire with his arms behind his head. Ibrahim Salem was released on the 1st of August after 8 months of detention. Salem told a local media outlet that beatings, electrocution and sexual abuse were almost a daily routine in the Israeli prison.
We were subjected to all kinds of torture. I was tortured by electrocution. Once they dressed me in a Qassam Brigade's uniform and wanted to take me down in a tunnel. I refused. They tried to force me to go down in a tunnel, and when I refused, they sat me on an electric chair and started torturing me.
Salem was in the intensive care unit in northern Gaza's Kamal Adwan hospital when Israeli forces raided the facility in December last year. He lost his family members in the attack last year. Salem was among 100 other men who were taken to an undisclosed location. He described the 52 days he spent in the Sde Taiman facility as his worst nightmare. Salem said some of the worst forms of torture took place during interrogations, where the soldiers asked the detainees about the location of hostages. He told a local media outlet that the detainees had injuries on their rectum due to insertion of glass containers. As per reports, the detainees were left without food and sufficient water for days. Salem and 14 other detainees were released from an Israeli prison this month.
I was detained for around 46 days. They would ask me, where are the tunnels? Are you part of the resistance? Are you Hamas? They would ask me about the resistance. We would tell them we are not affiliated with Hamas nor Fatah, but they wouldn't take that as an answer. Under torture, you had to speak. If you are weak and can't withstand torture, you have to tell them something. There are some people who said they were a part of Hamas, although they aren't, just because of the torture.
When Salem was asked about the viral photo, he said it was taken during a 6-hour punishment. According to the Israeli rights group B'Tselem, Israel has conducted a systematic policy of prisoner abuse and torture since the start of the Gaza war. Rights groups say Palestinians are subjected to acts ranging from arbitrary violence to sexual abuse. B'Tselem says its analysis is based on interviews with 55 Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank. The Israeli military claimed specific accusations of abuse are under investigation. A spokesperson for the Israel Prison Service said all prisoners are treated according to the law and all basic rights are fully applied by professionally trained guards. There are nearly 10,000 Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons. The UN says some of them are held in secret places without access to lawyers or respect for legal rights.
With that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of the West Asia Post. But we will see you next week with more stories, more voices from the world's most volatile region. This is Isha Hanspal signing off. Bye and take care.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety,